spotted a compact container in my spouse's handbag. Contained within was a pendant fashioned from white gold with the words, "Forever Yours," etched at the rear. I recognized such a present wasn't from colleagues or acquaintances. It was on my wife's birthday, just an ordinary weekday, and she was at work as usual. I wished to astonish her. My intention was to collect her immediately after work so we could head to our preferred small eatery and while the evening away together. Towards the end of her working day, I navigated towards her office complex. Traffic was congested. I halted at a red signal at one of the junctions, then my gaze fell on the pedestrian crossing. I observed my wife. She was walking alongside an unfamiliar man. I couldn't discern my emotions, but something constricted inside me. I hurriedly parked near her office building and seized my phone. I dialed her number. She answered almost instantly. In a composed tone, she informed me she was delayed due to work matters, intending to complete tasks later and hail a taxi home individually. I ended the call and stayed in the car. Time seemed to drag. After 20 minutes, they emerged from the boutique. My spouse appeared content, bearing the store's logoed bag. A man approached her, placing an arm affectionately around her waist before they departed swiftly in his vehicle. In a last-minute attempt, I snatched my phone, activated the camera, and captured a distinct image of his face. Exiting the car, I moved toward the office building, ascending to the reception desk. The staff was readying to depart. I unlocked my device, examined the freshly taken photograph of the man, and showed it to the receptionist. Informing her of my urgent need to find this individual, I inquired about reaching him within the premises. She examined the screen and swiftly replied, "Mr. Hartley has likely departed and won't return today. It's closing time." 1. The restaurant on the 5th floor remains operational. You can ascend to ask the duty manager if he's scheduled for tomorrow. 2. I thanked her, promptly proceeded to the 5th floor and approached the bar. Inquiring about Mr. Hartley's presence tonight, the bartender gruffly replied, "No, he left for his Broadway restaurant." I sought clarification on its location. He disclosed, "Hartley's Prime Steakhouse on Broadway." Initially, I suspected they had both gone to that steakhouse, but a faint hope lingered that Hartley had merely dropped off my wife. I descended to my car and navigated downtown to Broadway. Upon arrival, his car was immediately visible in the parking lot. Recognizing the vehicle, I abandoned mine and entered. Inside, the aroma of grilled meat and aged whiskey permeated the air, while the dim light and soft music imparted an exclusive, secluded ambience. Surveyed the space, absorbing it, before venturing further into the room, scrutinizing the expressions on the faces of the scant patrons at their tables. Stepping methodically, past vacant chairs and once-occupied ones, I eventually spotted them, huddled in a secluded, dimly lit corner at a small table. Time seemed to freeze as I took in the champagne cooler and birthday cake adorned with flickering candles. They whispered intimately, immersed in their own world. My wife leaned closer and Hartley tenderly gripped her hand. In that instant, my heart thumped with fury. A ball of emotion rose in my throat, and I clenched my hands into fists. All my strength was required to keep standing still. Yet I knew clearly, if I approached them and caused a scene, I would be making a grave error. She'd swiftly come up with an explanation like, "It's just a business dinner in honor of my birthday." I managed to check the initial surge of anger and moved toward the hostess station instead. I courteously requested for a vacant table situated at a distant corner of the spacious room, offering me a decent vantage point of their area, and proceeded to order coffee. I settled down and observed them, taking note of subtle nuances. Denise's genuine-seeming laughter in response to his jokes, her casual hair adjustments that seemed almost flirtatious, the way she leaned towards him across the table, gradually narrowing the distance, and the tender way she touched his hand. Naturally, I discreetly captured all of this on my phone, knowing I'd need evidence. I stayed there for roughly 20 minutes before deciding it was unnecessary to linger any longer and watch them. By then, everything had become evident to me, and the last remnants of my misconceptions were dispelled. I settled my coffee bill and stepped out. The cool air offered a momentary respite. I strolled towards the parking lot, climbed into my car, and drove home, weary, engulfed in heavy contemplation. Around an hour later, Denise arrived home by taxi. She entered silently, attempting to keep noise to a minimum. In the dimly lit kitchen, a vase holding flowers adorned the table before me. Apologetic for tardiness, Denise confessed she joined friends at a quaint cafe to celebrate her birthday after work. I feigned comprehension and feigned faith in her story, inquiring about her gifts. She immediately revealed a spa gift card from her friends. No mention was made of the pricey velvet boutique present. Once Denise left for a shower, I seized the opportunity. Quietly rummaging through her purse, I swiftly found the labeled box. Upon opening it, I beheld a delicate white gold pendant bearing "Forever Yours" etched on its reverse. Such costly and intimate gifts are not typical of colleagues or acquaintances. I promptly retrieved my phone, snapped the emblem on the pendant, and restored the box to her handbag. The following day, I settled at my computer and navigated back to Hartley's official site. I located the area with links to assorted articles about his venture and selected one on the inauguration of that very steakhouse, Hartley's Prime on Broadway. The article was filled with pictures. In one of them, Hartley stood beside a woman smiling warmly and a young child. It instantly became clear that these were his family. The caption verified it. James Hartley alongside his wife, Christine Hartley, and their son. I keyed in her name into Google, only to be astounded by the revelation. She was a renowned attorney specializing in family law in Portland. The web was replete with praises from previous clients. Christine Hartley was an expert at handling divorces. That's when it dawned on me. If she discovered her husband was unfaithful, a woman of such caliber could disintegrate his life in a heartbeat. I retrieved the contact number for her law practice. After calling, I composed myself and informed the receptionist that a confidential consultation was necessary with Mrs. Hartley regarding divorce and property partition. The secretary checked the schedule and proposed the following Tuesday as the next available slot. I accepted this arrangement, confirming the meeting. Subsequently, I drove to Christine Hartley's downtown office. For this significant discussion, I had meticulously gathered my facts. As we had much to discuss, I was ready for our talk. Upon arrival, the receptionist acknowledged me courteously and guided me into a generously sized office. Christine Hartley motioned for me to sit in the chair facing her desk, and she pulled out a fresh notepad with self-assurance. She inquired about my identity, then my wife's name, and sought information on the marital assets to be divided. I situated myself comfortably, removed my phone from my pocket, and began recounting the events. I mentioned to her that my spouse's name was Denise. She held a position at a large downtown office, and our shared residence would be divided in our divorce proceedings. After this, I took a moment to gaze intently at Christine, then confided that my marriage wasn't ending in a typical run-of-the-mill divorce. I made it clear that my wife had been unfaithful to me. On her birthday, under the guise of an innocent gathering with friends at a cafe, she nodded understandingly. For her, such situations were commonplace. She calmly started discussing how any evidence of the infidelity would be beneficial in court. At that exact moment, I directed my phone screen towards her and played a video from the Broadway steakhouse. Initially, Christine maintained professional composure as she watched the screen. However, when the camera zoomed in on the individuals at the table, her professional demeanor vanished instantaneously. She instantly recognized the man in the video, who was the same one tenderly touching my wife's hand. The pen in Christine's grasp slipped onto her desk, causing a sudden hush. I disclosed the details of the pendant I'd clandestinely discovered in Denise's handbag the previous night, showing her the picture of the "Forever Yours" etching on its reverse side. Christine paid rapt attention, took a deep breath, and momentarily closed her eyes to compose herself. In a composed tone, she admitted, "Professionally, I can't accept your case due to an obvious conflict of interest." However, we devised another strategy. We discussed our plan thoroughly and reached a consensus on the next steps. Christine pledged to delegate my divorce case to a fellow attorney from her firm, a trusted and seasoned legal professional. This expert would promptly draft an official petition for divorce against Denise. We opted for a surprise they wouldn't anticipate. I bid farewell and departed from Christine's office. On my journey home, I phoned Hartley's Prime on Broadway to secure the identical private corner table for the upcoming Friday night to celebrate Denise's birthday. I was confident that this would be a birthday she'd cherish forever. Midweek, I informed Denise about our dinner reservation at a fancy restaurant on Friday evening. I noted that we hadn't yet celebrated her special day and hinted at an extraordinary surprise in store. She appeared delighted and consented without any queries. On the agreed Friday night, I arrived at her workplace and escorted her home. Roughly 30 minutes later, we reached the Broadway steakhouse. We strolled into the spacious dining room and made a beeline for our usual table tucked away in the dim corner. The one she had once shared with Hartley. In that instant, Denise's countenance froze in astonishment. Christine and James Hartley were already seated at that table. I flashed a grin and announced loudly, "And here's the surprise I mentioned. These are our friends, and we shall enjoy this delightful evening together." Hartley appeared as bewildered as my pale spouse. He presumed it was merely an ordinary dinner with his wife alone. However, he didn't anticipate encountering his mistress alongside her husband in this setting. We took our seats, and the waiters promptly served us chilled champagne before bringing in a sizable birthday cake adorned with candles. Placed on its surface were identical photos of James and Denise, taken from the boutique, and right in the center, bold letters spelled out, "Forever yours." The atmosphere was thick with unease. Just then, Christine's lawyer approached our table composedly, taking a vacant seat. He unzipped his briefcase and with assurance placed 2 sets of papers on the table. He first slid the first set towards James. Since she had already initiated the divorce process, this folder contained a pre-prepared settlement agreement for trial proceedings. In the light of their prenuptial agreement, with the affair confirmed, James stood to forfeit most of their joint assets, including his stake in a thriving restaurant business, which his wife had contributed years to help build. James sat there frozen in fear. He glanced quickly over the documents and realized contesting his lawyer wife on this matter was futile. He took out a pen and signed the pages without a word. Leaving as silently as he came, he departed hastily. He no longer had any time for Denise. A harsh divorce lay ahead for him. As James walked away, Denise stood dazed, gazing at the cake that read, "Forever yours." The sentiment now held little romance. Instead, a property settlement agreement was placed in front of Denise. Of her own accord and completely, she relinquished her share of our home to me. She examined the first page, then looked at me before quietly signing it. Following their departure, Christine and her lawyer exited the room, leaving Denise and I alone. I summoned the waiter, requested the bill, and settled the night's costs. The surprise between Christine and me was successfully executed. Without uttering a word, I rose from the table and departed, leaving Denise seated before her birthday cake. A few months later, my marriage to Christine legally ended. That birthday marked our final celebration together. What are your thoughts on narratives such as this, where the husband discloses the truth to his lover's wife? I advocate for resolving it directly with the man or allowing his partner to discover it too. Feel free to share your viewpoint in the comments. Subscribe as more unspoken stories await.